Okay, good morning. So welcome to us this morning from Torquay Girls Grammar School here in a very sunny Devon. If you're watching us on YouTube, fantastic. We'd love to know where you are from, where your schools are from today. Following us. If you're at Torquay Girls Grammar School, fantastic to have you with us. And again, if you want to leave any comments, just leave those down through Teams. So we're simultaneously broadcasting to Torquay Girls Grammar School this morning through Teams and on YouTube this morning as well. And it's great to see you all with us this morning. What we're going to be doing today is we're going to be making some vegetable pasties. Now, if you're watching us again at school, you've already had the recipe sent to you, a list of ingredients and equipment, but we'll be going through that one with you. If you are watching on YouTube this morning, hopefully you've got the recipe there through social media and you've been given that by your schools too. So like I say, vegetable pasties today, and how we're doing this one as normal. I will go through all the recipes up on the board here. They're projected up onto the board, and I'll also go through a little bit of the food science, which we're going to be going through down here on the side here. On the whiteboard. Now, say any questions, put those down the side if you're watching this from school, down through the Teams chat. If you're watching this on YouTube, just put that one along the bottom there and I'll come back to you on that. Okay. Now, before we start, it's all about playing it safe in the kitchen before we start to cook this morning. So before we start to cook, can we just go through some very basic rules? And those are, have you got permission to cook this morning with me, cook along with me? Are you in a safe area is it safe to be able to cook along with me? And do you have a grown-up to lend a hand to provide some supervision and responsibility for you there? So somebody to lend a hand, safe to do so, permission to do so, and we can get going. Hopefully there's lots of grown-ups with us helping us this morning on to this morning's Cook Along show class with us. Fabulous. Don't need to worry about that one. That's okay. We are just about to start, so no need to worry there. I'm just getting messages coming in already. We're just about to start. I'm going to go through everything. Now, this is, if you're watching this on YouTube, this is our very first lesson for our year 7 rotation. So it's a new rotation here. So we're going to be going through a few different bits and pieces from scratch. So let me just go through the learning objectives for today up on the board here. So you've got those for you. So the learning objectives this morning are these. There we go. Let's get the projector up and running. So the learning objectives are, let's get this ready and raring to go. There we go. Let me just turn the camera around so you can see that one a little bit better, and you can see those ones a little bit better too. There we go. Let's turn that camera around so you can see, and let's zoom that one in as well so you can see. There we go. So the learning objectives today, and we just turn it around for you so you can also see. I'll move out of the way so you can see it as well. What we're going to be doing is making a basic short crust pastry. So what does that mean? Well, we're going to be looking at creating a pastry from a flour. So we're going to look at flour and butter and the science behind all of that, and what's involved in that. You're going to be demonstrating a few things today for me as well. You're going to be going through a few bits and pieces. We are going to be demonstrating your knife skills. So we're going to go through the basic knife skills, how they work. You're going to be going through bits and pieces on using a cooker safely and what that involves. You're going to be also looking at understanding this thing called food provenance. What is food provenance? How does it work? What is it all about? And you're going to be learning a little bit about that one today as well. So that's what we're going to be going through today. We're going to all go through that one together, and we're going to work out how we put all of this together with each other. Alrighty. Let's go back to it. Let's get me back in. Hello, I'm back again. Right, so that's your learning objectives today. Now, what we're going to be doing next is we're going to be learning how to be safe and begin to cook in the kitchen. Okay, so we're going to go through that as well. Here we go. Any more questions? Yes, we are going to be doing that one. The whole thing is recorded. It's recorded both at Torquay Girls Grammar through the Teams, and it's also recorded on YouTube, so you can watch this back straight away on YouTube as well. So don't worry about that. If you're thinking, oh, I'm going to miss some of this, can I watch it back? Yes, you can. So that's a really good question. Any other questions before we start? No, looks like we are ready and raring to go, which is a good place. So before we start, we need to, there we go. The recipe. So the recipe is on, for those at Talkie Girls Grammar School, they are on Teams, along with a list of equipment and ingredients there. That's all there already for you. So if you go back to the blog there, you'll be able to have, back to the chat there, the main chat, you'll be able to see those ones. If you're watching this on YouTube, there's all the ingredients and equipment is underneath there. And you can say, we're going to be going through the recipe on the board there. Any more questions before we start? Fabulous, you've got that one, brilliant. I think we're nearly ready to go. I'm going to go through, if you first time you've joined us one of these, I'm going to go through all the equipment and all the ingredients and how to prepare our area together. So I'm going to be doing this step by step. So don't be worried if you're thinking, oh, I'm not going to get through all this. You will. We're just going to go through everything together step by step, okay? So no need to worry. And if you want to ask any questions while we're going along, I'm happy to take questions as well. So don't worry about that. Okay, let's move on then. Let's get ourselves ready. You might have seen up on the board here, we are now going to look at getting ourselves ready. So what does that involve? Well, we need to get ourselves ready. We need to get all of ourselves ready, which is really important. We need to get our areas ready. So we need to look at the areas we're cooking in. And we need to look at getting all the equipment and ingredients ready before we start. So I've got everything laid out here, and I'm going to go through everything with you so you can have everything laid out and ready to go as well. So how do we remember all of the different things we need to put in place before we start to cook? How can we remember it all? Well, we have this thing called HATTIE, H-A-T-T-I-E up on the board here. Oh, forgot to mention there, we're using a package you may have seen down there called Hodder Education. Hodder Education is the educational school package we use for our slides there. So thank you to Hodder Education there. Fantastic package of material. We can't see the projector too well. Okay, I will just, we can sort that one out. Don't worry, we can answer that question. Let me make it a little bit brighter for you. Hopefully now, let's see if I just move that over there. Is that a little better for you? Hopefully you can see that one a little bit better. Is that better? Sorry, someone just said they can't see the board too well. Is that better for you? Hopefully you can see that now. Yep, that's much better. I can see it better now. Fabulous. Okay, not to worry. It's because it's such a glorious sunny day down here in Devon. I'm looking out over the estuary here. It's wonderful. So it's a bit bright this morning, brighter than I was expecting this morning. Cold, very cold. No snow if you're watching this elsewhere in the country. We've not had any snow here for years, but it might be having some at the weekend. Fingers crossed. Anyway, HATTIE. This is a way of remembering how to even get everything ready to cook. So what does HATTIE stand for? What does it mean? Well, if you've been watching the last few sessions, my last few classes on YouTube, you'll know at Talkie Girls Grammar, I'm going to introduce this to you because this is the first time we've cooked together. Okay, we've got a question there, up there. Oh, no, that's a hand up over there. If you want to leave a comment down there, that would be fabulous. Right. Let's go through then and just tell you what does HATTIE stand for. HATTIE stands for a way of getting ourselves ready to cook. And I'm going to go through each step for you, okay? Does it stand for hands? Yes, it does. So some of you who are watching this on YouTube have also, so we're going to have a bit of competition between those schools watching on YouTube this morning and our school Talkie Girls Grammar here as to who can answer the questions quicker. So we'll have, don't forget you can leave live chat either way. It does. H is the first one, okay? So H stands for, first of all, hair. I don't have a lot of it, but if you've got a lot of hair, you need to be tying this back this morning, okay? And that might seem a bit weird in your own kitchen, but trust me, we need to be thinking about this. It's a class today, and so we need to be thinking about our own hygiene, and that means we don't want any contaminants. We don't want things to be going into our food. We don't want hair in our food. That would just be disgusting. So rather than doing that one, we think about tying our hair back. Or you could wear a hat, maybe. Maybe you could wear a hat instead. That was another way of being able to do it. So the first one is a hair And also, as was rightly pointed out there on the Teams chat, it is for hands as well. Obviously, extremely important in these weird and crazy times that we're in at the moment that you wash your hands all the time as much as possible. But it's paramount when you're actually cooking away. It's really important when you're actually cooking as well. Again, we don't want any contaminants on anything that's any nasties in our food. So we do have to make sure our hands are properly washed. Don't worry, we're going to go through all of this together. The next one is for A. A is for, let's have a look. Who's going to be quickest off the mark here? You might be able to read it on the board. You might be able to know and have a good guess. A stands for, give you a clue. I'm sitting on one right here. That's it. You need to get your aprons on. So I've got my apron at the ready as well. So we need to make sure our aprons are at the ready. And again, this might seem a little bit odd. You're thinking, well, I'm cooking in my own kitchen. Do I need to wear an apron? Yes, you do. You really do. It's really important. So we need to get our aprons at the ready. So that's the next one. Well done. Quite a few of you got that one right on the chats there. Very well done. Now, after A for apron, we've got T. Now, T is for this area below me. If you don't have an apron, let's make sure you've got something to cover you. I'm actually going to use two things today to cover myself. Okay, I'm going to be using, I've got a chef jacket, White's jacket there, and I'm going to use my apron. As long as we are making sure we're trying to prepare ourselves. Okay, so if you can, that'll be great. Okay, now I am going to prepare my tabletop. Here's my tabletop area. And you might be doing this in a number of ways. You might be washing it down with some soap. You might be sanitizing it with a spray. You might have anti-bac your area before you start to cook. But really make sure it's clean. Your tabletop. Is your tabletop clean? That's T for tabletop. Okay, next one, we got a tray. Now, tray is a really useful piece of equipment to have at the ready to be able to collect the next two things, which is I and E, which is ingredients and equipment. So if you've got that, I've already laid out my bits and pieces there, but it's a really useful tool to have at hand when you're doing this. So that's how way we remember this one. This is Hattie, H-A-T-T-I-E, for hair and hands, A for apron, T for tabletop, T for tray, I for ingredients, E for equipment. And we're going to go through all of this together. Before we even start to cook, we'll be looking at how we get our area prepped, how we get ourselves ready, and how we get all our ingredients and equipment ready. Okay. Now this comes under something we call this weird thing up here, mise en place. Mise en place. This is our preparation time in the kitchen. It comes from the French and it literally means to put in place. We are going to make sure that our area is nice and clean and ready to cook in. Okay, before we even start to think about cooking. So our mise en place time. Okay, so let's go through this together. We need to do all this together. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to show you, take you over to my kitchen sink, and we're going to go and get our hands washed. I'm going to get my aprons on. I'm going to get my jacket on before we start to cook. I don't need to tie my hair back, but maybe you do need to tie your hair back and go from there. So here we go. Let's turn the cameras around. I'm just going to move the cameras around here. In fact, if you're on YouTube, I'll take the camera with me, in fact. So let's move the camera around to my kitchen. And we'll see how we go from there. Let's come on over. Let's get everything sorted and ready to go. Before we start to cook, we need to make sure ourselves and everything is ready to cook. There we go. So I'm just going to bring my camera with me. So if you're watching this on YouTube, we're just going to take that right over to me. There we go. So you can see me. Hello, everybody. I'm just moving this over here. Here we go. Fabulous. Now you can see me there. Wonderful. We're now going to get our hands ready to, before we start to cook. So I'm just going to roll my sleeves up, just at my kitchen sink here. I'm going to roll my sleeves up. There we go. Sleeves rolled up. Oh, and then I'm going to get my hands washed. Now, the most important thing for this one, and I know you've been told this many times already, is some nice soap. So I've got some nice soap here. Lots of soap on my hands. I'm going to rub my hands together. Rub, 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 rub. But it's also important when you're washing your hands, we need to do the back of our hands. So between our fingers on the back of our hands, that's it, right in between. You need to do your thumbs as well. Always forgot the back of our hands as well. So we have back of our hands, our wrists as well. So we are properly clean all the way through. Our thumbs, we've done our thumbs and that's soap. Now we need some hot water. So I'm just gonna, okay, we go, look, we've got some hot water there, and the same again. Rub those hands together. We're doing the back of our hands together. We're doing our wrists. We're doing our thumbs. We're making sure those hands are properly clean before we start to cook. Okay, so that's my hands clean. Now, as well as cleaning my hands, got a nice clean towel there. As well as cleaning my hands, I'm going to also put on there, just for a bit of extra, I'm going to put there some antibacterial gel as well. Let's get some of that on there. We can't too much cleaning at the moment. There we go. Some antibacterial hand gel. Just going to rub that on there. So I have got beautifully clean hands. Fabulous. Right, come on over, come on over. So if you're watching this on YouTube, and let's move the camera back round to me. And here we go, everybody, at school as well. Right, fabulous, everybody. And like I say, if you have any problems at school, we are broadcasting this live on YouTube as well, so you can watch us and then watch us back on there as well. Right, hands are clean. Next one, we need to make sure we get our aprons and our protective equipment on, okay, before we start to cook. So I'm just going to do the very same thing. Here we go. I've got my chef whites on. I'm going to put those on, and then I'm going to put my apron on over the top. So hopefully you're doing the same thing as me at home as we get ourselves prepared to cook. You're getting yourself all covered up so that you don't get any contaminants on the food, and you protect yourself as well. Like I say, it's all about playing it safe in the kitchen today. So before we even start to cook, we need to make sure that we have got everything prepared to cook. And prepared is important. Now, for those, again, eagle-eyed of you, were looking at me thinking, what's that little thing in the corner of my jacket? That is the Food Teachers Centre. That's the Association of Food Teachers, the Forum of Food Teachers across the country. There we go. And I've got my apron on there as well for all the food teachers that are watching this at home as well. Okay, let's get ready to cook. So I am ready to cook now. I'm fully cleaned, ready to go. I have got my roll my sleeves up as well. There we go. I am now ready to cook. Clean and ready to cook. Clean aprons on, everything there ready to cook. And hopefully you are now ready to cook as an individual. Now, once we're ready to cook, we are now going to move on to the ingredients and equipment, okay? I'm going to go through each step of this because there's going to be lots of different alternatives as well. We're all in a lockdown larder situation, which might mean that we can't get hold of all the ingredients that we need. So we'll look at some options and different things there available to you for you to be able to cook this morning. Also, you might have some certain allergies or intolerances, or you might not be able to eat certain foods for particular moral, ethical, or religious reasons. So again, we'll look at all the different alternatives that are available to you this morning, and we'll go through all those now. So we've done H, A, T, T, we're down to I and E. I for ingredients, E for equipment. So let's have a look on the board and find out what we're going to be using to cook with today. Okay, so today, we've got ingredients-wise, we've got these up on the board there, and hopefully you can see there. I'm going to go through these ingredients with you very quickly now. So we've got, first of all, 150 grams of plain flour. Now, before you start worrying about being able to measure everything out, I'm going to measure everything out with you. So if you haven't got scales, we're not in school now, so if you haven't got scales in your kitchen, I'll show you how to measure everything out with spoons and knives. So if you've got just some tablespoons, some teaspoons, maybe a rounded butter knife, which will come on to all the equipment later on. I'll show you how to measure out with these as well as being able to use the scales. Okay, so don't worry about that. But plain flour. So I've got myself some plain flour here, and that's what you need to be having for this recipe as well, some plain flour. Now, if you're having difficulties getting hold of flour, top tip for you here, if you're having problems, because I know that certainly was the case in lockdown number 1 where people couldn't get hold of it. So here are my top tips, my life hacks for being able to get hold of flour. So we've been going on our regular daily local exercise. You might want to contact your local pub or restaurant that's currently closed and by email or by phone and say that, you know, they've all got these ingredients still stuck in their kitchens. That's what we've done before. We've got one just down the road from us. You can email them or phone them, get grown-ups to do it if you want, and say you'd like some flour. Somebody might be able to pay over the phone for that or online, and then you can go and pick it up from outside there, socially distanced. So that's one way of being able to get flour from places that have flour if you can't get it from the shop. So if you can't get a delivery of flour. So there's a top tip. Now, if you haven't got plain flour, can you use other flours? And that's a really good question. And the answer is yes, you can use other flours. You might want to use something like a bread flour. So we've got a bread flour here. That would work with this one, although you get slightly tougher pastry. That would work. Maybe you're gluten intolerant, celiac, in which case you can go for some free from type plain flour, so free of gluten in there. And we'll talk a little bit about what gluten is in a moment. But what I would add, if you're doing a gluten-free one, if you're going for a gluten-free flour, I would probably add a little bit of xanthan gum in there, probably about a teaspoon's worth of xanthan gum. I always like to add a little bit extra in there, protein into there if you're doing that one. Okay, that is flour. Right, any questions about that? No? Okay, so let's move on to the next one. Butter, fat, or dairy alternative. So I've got some butter here, a little bit of butter, dairy butter. But if you're vegan or you're extending veganuary, I know it's February, but you could always use what we're going to be using today. We're using a plant-based alternative for fat this today. So you can use a plant-based alternative if you wish to instead. I can't make this because people go, that's fine. So if you're unable to be cooking right along with me now, you might be watching this. That's fabulous. Don't worry. You can maybe cook this one later on today or later in the week. That would be great. So if you don't think you've got everything to be able to carry on and do the recipe right now, maybe you're watching this back on YouTube or watching this back on Teams, you can always pause this and then carry on at a later time. Okay, or you can watch us live now and ask questions as we're going along and then catch up later. Okay, next one, milk or eggs alternative. Now this is to glaze our food and to mix it together. So you could use either milk or eggs with this one or alternative. So I've got some dairy milk here, but you might be, again, looking at vegan alternatives. So you can use an oat drink or a soya drink, which would work just as well there as an alternative to be able to brush on our food. Or you might want to think, well, I'm going to use some eggs to do this one. So eggs would work fine. So I've got my eggs there. So I can use my eggs, or I can use an egg alternative. So I've got a little egg alternative here, which would work just as well, either. And if you can't get hold of an egg alternative, and again, I know this is a problem we had in lockdown one, not so much for lockdown we're at the moment. But if you can't get hold of that, if you've got a tin of old chickpeas at the back of your cupboard, get those out, drain the water off and use the drained water, and that will work just like egg. In fact, you can even make meringues out of chickpea water. It's got aquafaba. It's a really good alternative there. So you might want to use any of those alternatives for your ingredients today. Then we've got a chosen filling. Now, what are you going to use for your chosen filling? Well, this is a pasty, a vegetable pasty. And we're going to be talking about something called food provenance. Oh, what does that mean? Let me write that one up on the board for you so you can see that one, because it's a weird old spelling as well. Food provenance. What does food provenance mean? Well, food provenance is about knowing where your foods come from. Okay, this is not a knowledge of how you get your hold of your foods. Okay, so really important that we need to know exactly where we get hold of our foods and how we get hold of our foods. And this covers things such as seasonality. That is, what foods are in season at the moment. And there's loads of good reasons why we use the foods that are in season at the moment, from a cost point of view, from an environmental point of view. You need to be thinking about freshness. You need to be thinking about reducing your food miles. That's how far food travels for the environmental and cost point of view as well. So there's a lot of reasons why seasonality. And what's in season at the moment? So what can we get hold of fresh at the moment? Well, lots of root vegetables. So I've got here some root vegetables, just sort of really January, but February, just coming into February. So root vegetables, potatoes, parsnips, Lovely things to be able to go in there. Some mixed vegetables there. So I've got fresh parsnips, fresh potatoes there. I've even got, although it's slightly early, one of these ones as well, a fresh turnip as well. These are root vegetables. These are vegetables that are grown in the ground, and these are seasonal vegetables. So we're going to use some of those. Don't worry, you might be thinking, I haven't got potatoes to go into these ones. So what I'm also going to show you is I'm going to show you with some new potatoes. So just canned new potatoes will work really, really well with that one. I'm going to show you some cutting skills with those ones as well. So you can go canned veg, or you can even go, I'm just going to hop, skip and a jump over to my freezer. Let me grab something from the freezer here. Just going to get this one out. I'm still here, so I'm just going to grab you. We can even use frozen vegetables. I'm just getting my frozen vegetables out. Where are we? Ah, there it is. It's at the back there. I've got it. Don't worry. I'm just getting this all out of the freezer, which we've got here in the kitchen, but we have to keep everything cool. So you might want to use some mixed vegetables, which has already been prepared. So this has already got vegetables in there. So that's got in there, let's have a look, carrots in there. It's got a whole mix there of different, and that's got swede and carrots and potatoes in there. So we've got lots of different things going on there. So you might want to use a mixed vegetables, but we're making vegetables. And it doesn't matter so much about the filling, because today's more about how to make a pastry and to use our cutting skills. So we can use a variety of different things here to fill up our food, okay? Fill up our pastry foods that we're making. So I've got frozen there, I've got canned, and it doesn't matter. If for freshness point of view, don't think you're not going to be getting all the vitamins and minerals, because frozen or canned still counts as one of your 5 a day that you can have. So don't worry if you're thinking, well, I can't get hold of fresh ones. So I'm going to use carrots today and potatoes and parsnips, but don't worry if you can't get hold of those. Now, you can also get, these are interesting. While we're talking about root vegetables and raw food, you might have seen potatoes. We'll use some carrots as well. Got some carrots over there. You might have seen potatoes this colour before, but we can also look at a purple potato. Should we have a look and see what's inside there? That's going to be an amazing colour. I'll tell you what I'm going to do before we move any further. These potatoes, because I've got some fresh potatoes and carrots and parsnips here, what I'm going to do is I'm going to put these into a saucepan right now. Okay, I've got a saucepan here. I'm going to put these into a saucepan. So if you are using fresh vegetables, I'm just going to put them into a saucepan. I'm going to put that one in there. Here we go. I'm literally going to just put those ones into some water in there. I'm going to cover those with some boiling water, and I'm going to leave them to simmer for 10-15 minutes on the stove, so I can show you what you can do with fresh. Now, if you're using frozen veg or canned veg, that's fine as well. We're looking at around about 100 grams of these, and I'll measure those out and show you. But look, I have literally got in there a parsnip, potato, and this weird-looking potato. Root vegetables in a pan. I'm going to cover these now with some boiling water while I carry on talking. Let me just quickly just move my camera around the kitchen there. There we go. I'm going to move my camera around. There we go. Move that one down so you can see. Okay. And I'm just going to move this other camera around so you can see what we're doing there. There we go. Okay. So I'm just going to literally, while we break for a minute, I'm going to put these ones on the hob. And I'm going to put some boiling water in here. If you're using boiling water, can you make sure that it's grown up to lend your hand there? Okay, I'm just going to put some of that straight in onto this part of. There we go. In it goes. Now I want to think about the environment and reducing the energy consumption. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put a lid on it as well. And now I'm going to turn the heat on. This is a hob. It's got hob rings on it. And there are some little dials here to control that. I'm just going to leave that one on a low heat, just to simmer away. Now, when you're leaving pans, okay, you do not want the pan handle sticking out. That's a no-no, because if I'm walking backwards and forwards like this, I might knock into it. So I'm going to leave my pan handle off to the side there. Got my lid on there. I've got my heat on there. I'm going to turn that down to a simmer. Fabulous. I'm going to leave that one. Let's come back to the rest of those ingredients and what we're cooking today. Okay, back to me. There we go. Fabulous. And back to me. There we go, everybody. All right. Excellent. So I've got those root vegetables simmering away because I'm going to be showing you how to cut things up. And what I want to do is I want to show you some cutting skills a bit later on as well. But we're also going to show you with some frozen veg and some canned veg. I've got some canned potatoes and carrots. I'll just grab the carrots. The carrots are just over there. Let me just grab those ones as well. And we're going to put one of those in there. Where are my tinned carrots? Here they are. I've got some tinned carrots somewhere here. Oh, we'll come back to those ones. We'll put one of those in there as well. Whack the carrot in there as well. So we've got a few different ones. Now, like I say, I'm looking for 100 grams of your chosen filling. What you make your filling out of is up to you. Traditionally, what would be in a pasty? Well, let's have a think. You'd normally have potatoes, Swedes, turnips, these sort of things all chopped up. Root vegetables chopped up teeny tiny small, which is what I'm going to show you how to cut up things teeny tiny small today. You'd normally be showing you how to chop those up teeny tiny small into a pasty, and then you'd probably have some meat, traditionally there, some beef. Beef would be in there, maybe some steak in there, chopped up into your pasty as well. Well, we're going to try and keep this one to a vegetable one, but if you have got some mince and you want to put some mince into this one as well, that's fine. You can put a little bit of mince, or maybe it's a meat alternative mince, like a plant-based one again. You can put that one into this. As long as it makes up to 100 grams, I'm okay with this one. And then you think of your seasoning. So I've put in there, maybe it's got some vegetable stock, or if you're using a meat, you can use a meat stock. So I've got some veggie stock there. Now, what's a veggie stock? They're like these little parcels, foil parcels, little Christmas parcels, birthday parcels. And inside here, you've got dehydrated, pressed, there we are, vegetables in there, all into a little block. Now, we're going to be crumbling in some of that stock onto our 100 grams of filling. Now, you might, if you haven't got stock, you can use different types of stock, depending if you're putting a meat filling into there. You might want to use a beef stock, a bit of beef stock, and they're only going to use about half of one of these, quarter or half of one of those blocks, so not a great deal. Maybe you haven't got any stock, so you could use maybe some other sorts of seasoning, which will give it a lovely flavour. Maybe you'd like to put some curry powder in there. So I've suggested maybe a teaspoon of mild curry powder would be beautiful in there. Maybe you want to put cheese in there. There's loads of different fillings for pasties, and it's worth having a look and investigate all the different types of fillings you're going to use. Today, what am I going to use? I'm going to use a mixed vegetable with some vegetable stock into mine, and I might add a little bit of cheese. I'll see what we get, how we go. But again, you can use a dairy alternative to cheese as well to go on top of that. So I'm going to let you decide the filling while we work on how to make this one. All right, to make it then, we're going to need to look at the equipment you also need. So let's make sure you've got all this set up as well. So let's go through the equipment you're going to need today. And that's now up there on the board behind me. And the equipment you're going to need today are these. You're going to need a tablespoon. There we have a tablespoon. You're going to need a rounded butter knife. We've shown you these already. This is a non-sharp knife that you might butter your bread with. You're going to be using a sharp knife. We are going to use some sharp knives. So we're going to use some sharp knife. You might have two different types of sharp knife. This one is a smaller one called a paring knife. This is a larger one called a chef's or a cook's knife. Very similar, very sharp edge on one side and a blunt edge on the other, and a pointer on the end. I'm going to be using both those and tell you a bit about knife safety as well when we're using those ones as well. Do we put half the veg stock in the pan with the water? No. The veg stock will come for later on when we've chopped everything up. So don't need to worry about putting that in there. I've just put some fresh vegetables on the board so that they are going to be going while we talk. But again, you might not be using fresh vegetables. I'm going to show you with both canned vegetables and fresh vegetables, depending on what you might have available. Okay, so don't need to put stock in there. I'm just softening those vegetables at the moment in the pan that are on the side there, just boiling away. But again, you might not need that. So if you've got some chopped vegetables anywhere already, that might be all you've got. We're in a lockdown larder situation, and I want you all to cook. So I'm not too worried if you're using frozen veg that's already pre-chopped. That's fine by me today. We will get onto lessons where it's important to use fresh vegetables, but no, that's fine today. If you've got your hands up, just leave a note down the side and I'll answer those comments for you as you're going along. That would be fabulous. You've got two hands up. If you want to do that, just put your notes down the side. And if you're watching on YouTube, again, just leave your comments down the side and I'll answer those questions as we're going along. Other things, you're going to need some mixing bowls. So I've got some mixing bowls here. We're going to be using those today. You're going to need a small round plate or large biscuit cutters. Yes. Now you could use a plate. What we've got here, we've got a variety of different things you can use today. This is purely and simply just for cutting things out with. So you can use a small bowl and use that to cut around. Use this one as a template. Maybe you've got a small plate you can use. So we're going to use those as templates to cut around. So if maybe you've got a saucer from a cup and saucer, that would work well. Maybe you've got a really large biscuit cutter that's sort of this size, massive one. But we're going to use what you might have at home, ready and available round by you. So that would work fine. Then we've got, we could use a rolling pin. There we go. So I have got a rolling pin, but we're not in school. So if you haven't got a rolling pin, what can you use instead? Okay, some more tips and tricks and hacks from me. So what you could use is you can actually use a roll of grease-proof paper to roll this one out in. That would work. You could use, if you've got an old milk bottle, washed out, roll that one out. That would work well as to roll things out with as well. So you can use a few, maybe you've got a glass cordial bottle. Be careful with glass though, if you're rolling those ones out, it doesn't fall and smash on the floor. Be careful. So rolling pin, or I would probably suggest a piece of roll of greaseproof paper that you can still use that one as a rolling pin as well. So if you've got those ones at home, what can we use? Okay, and then finally we've got a pastry brush. Now this is a lovely brush for brushing over on our top of ours to give our pastries a lovely glaze. But again, if you haven't got a pastry brush, that's fine. You can wash up thoroughly or get a new paintbrush. So I've got a paintbrush here. You could use a paintbrush. That would work well for you today as well. Just make sure it's lovely and clean and not being used and hasn't got paint all over it. We don't actually want to paint our pastries. Okay, so that goes through everything we need to get ready. And we start this with every lesson. We start by going through the equipment and ingredients that you might need ready and everything to get yourself ready. And I'm going to go through everything, talk everything through step by step with you. And that includes the recipe. So here we have the recipe up on the board for you. Here is the recipe, and we're going to go through this one step by step together. All of my recipes are in a lovely picture format up on the board here. You can see it, and you should also have that one available to you. So let's go through each of these steps now. You've got all your equipment and ingredients ready. We're now going to start our making. So let's do that right now. Now I'm going to use, first of all, get my flour and my butter together. So here we have a bowl. I'm going to put my bowl here. And what am I going to put inside here? Well, I'm going to put 150 grams of my plain flour into this one. And like I say, I'm going to show you, if you haven't got scales at home, how you can do this one as well. And so you can still be able to cook at home today. Now, while I'm doing this one, if anyone's got any shout outs they want to do, both on YouTube or I'm happy to do those ones. Do any shout outs for where you are around. If you're watching this one on YouTube, I would love to know where you're watching this from so we can tell you where you are. If you've got a shout out, I've got one already shout out that I've been emailed in. Can I give a shout out to all of those who are watching at Talkie Girls Grammar School from all the support staff there? So well done to all the support staff there, any schools and all the schools and us Talkie Girls Grammar School that are out there with for students that are key workers, parents are key workers, and you're in school today. So a big shout out to all of those who are in schools today watching this one. So there we go. Any other shout outs you want to do, please let me know. Right, so we've got 150 grams of plain flour. So we've got my plain flour there. What does that equate to if you haven't got scales? So let's have a look. Let's go through this one together. I'm going to count them using the larger spoon, my tablespoon. I'm going to count them into the bowl so you can see what I'm doing there. Let me just move the camera down so you can see what I'm doing there. I'm just going to move that camera down as well. There we go. So you can see what's going on there. Here we go. There we are. And we're just going to move that one out and we're going to zoom in a little bit. There we go. Okay, so I've got my bowl there. You can see that one there. And I'm now just going to measure that one out and together with you so you know what's going on. Here's my large spoon. So I'm going to go with 1, and I've got real heap spoonfuls here. 2, 3, and it should be, if I get this right, really heap spoonfuls. 4. Perfect. That is 100, and we want 150. So 2 more. 5, 6. And that is spot on, 150 grams there. So if you all haven't got scales at home, that does work. We'd love you to be using scales, but if you haven't got scales at home, that is 150 grams there. If you want to have a look, that's what it looks like. And we want 150 grams of flour into our bowl. Okay, now over the 150 grams of flour, we're now going to be putting 75 grams or 3 tablespoons of butter. So, or a dairy alternative. Like I said, I'm going to use this dairy alternative. Now, how do I know if I haven't got scales how to do it? Well, also quite helpfully, if you look at the sides of these packets, they've got measurements down the side there. So you can measure out, using a rounded butter knife, you can actually cut the sections off. So this one's in 50 grams. My dairy version, let's have a look. I think that's got it on there as well. Yep, that has. So that's got it in 25 grams. So if you have a look on the side there, you can just about see, hopefully on there, that's 25 grams measurements on there. So you can actually cut it into the 25 grams, which is quite useful, or the 50 grams of this one, or you can just measure it out using a scale. So I'm just going to show you what that looks like on here. I'm going to measure that one out as well. And we're going to be using 75 grams here. So I'm using my plant alternative there, and I'm just going to put in there 75 grams. There's 40. A little bit more. Perfect. 75 grams. And there's my 75 grams in my bowl there. You can see that one hopefully in the bowl at home there. And you can see what I'm doing there. Okay. That's the first bit. We're making a short crust pastry today, a simple short crust pastry. So let's have a look at the next step on the board there. What's it say on the board next? Well, after weighing out your ingredients, it says 2 things up there. The first thing it says to do is it needs to do something called cutting in. What's cutting in? Anyone want to hazard a guess? What's cutting in? Anyone want to have a guess? Who's going to have a guess first? Is it going to be YouTube or is it going to be Talkie Girls Grammar? Who's going to guess? What does cutting in involve? Real simple question. What do you think cutting in involves? You got it right. We need the rounded butter knife here. And what we need to do is we are going to cut that butter up teeny tiny small. Okay, we're going to cut it up. And then the next stage, it says rubbing in. What does rubbing in involve? Very simple again. It says exactly what it says. We need to rub in, that's right. So we're going to be using our fingertips for the second part, and we're going to be doing some rubbing in, lifting and tickling. Okay, so the first thing we're going to do is we're going to use our rounded butter knife and we're going to do some cutting in. Let me show you what that looks like down here. So zoom in, there we go. All righty, move down there so you can see it on there. So what I'm going to do first of all here is I'm now going to cut it in this. So I'm going to get hold of my bowl. Okay, and what I'm going to do now is I'm going to cut in all of those bits of butter into the flour. I am cutting it in, and so it's teeny tiny small. How small does it need to be? Well, it needs to be about as small as, I don't know, who out there eats rabbit poos? Anyone eat rabbit poos? No, no one eat rabbit poos. I've got raisins, sultanas, you ever eaten those? Okay, that's what we're trying to do. We're trying to cut them up as about as small as that. So I'm cutting them up now, teeny tiny small. So it's teeny tiny small as we're going along there. And each one is being cut up very, 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 very small. A little tip here, how do I know whether I've cut them up small enough or if there's any large lumps in there? Well, what you need to do here, just give your bowl a little tap on the work surface. A little one, I'm going to break it. And as you tap it, the larger lumps will just start to come to the top. And then you know to cut those ones up teeny tiny small too. So I've now cut those lumps up teeny tiny small too, until they're about the size of a raisin sultana. Now, why am I doing this? Very good question. Why am I cutting this up? Well, what I'm trying to do here is I am trying to get all of the butter hidden away inside the flour. What I want to do is actually get all of that butter to cover every single tiny bit of flour and give every single bit of flour a covering of butter. Now, butter is a lipid, it's waterproof. So I'm giving each of my little bits of flour a waterproof jacket. So that's what I'm doing as I start to cut this up. Why do I want to give my flour a waterproof jacket? Well, that's a really good question. Why would my flour need to be waterproof? Why does it need an anorak or a jacket made of butter for each of those? Well, when you make flour wet, something weird happens. If you've ever made paper mache at school, at primary school, maybe you did this one, maybe you did this one last year or the year before, and you put flour and water in a bowl, and then you cut up long strips of newspaper or paper, and then you put it in the flour and water, and then you covered it around a balloon maybe and made masks or models. Maybe you just used it to make Christmas decorations. What happens with the flour and water when you put the newspaper in it? It gets all very, what happens? It gets very, very, anyone want to tell me? Very, very, oh, let me give you a clue. It gets very, very sticky. Yes, it does. Very, very sticky. I've got my sticky stick there of stickiness. It becomes very, very sticky. And that stickiness creates something in the flour. Something very sticky like glue. Now, this is a really interesting bit of food science from GCSE, but I'm going to tell it to you now because I think you're intelligent enough to know. This gluey stuff is called gluten. Gluten. Now, this is a really weird stuff that forms a really hard structure when it dries. As I say, if you've ever made paper mache, it gets really hard when it dries. And it's actually very useful in some foods, like bread. We want a hard outside, a structure to our bread. We need that gluten. Let me write that on the board so you know that word as well. So let me put that one on there. We've got some great keywords coming up today. So I'm going to put that one on the board. Where's my pen gone? There we go. It's here somewhere. Here we go. Let's write this one on the board. Gluten. And actually, it shares a name with glue sticks, because glue sticks are sticky. Glue and glue, it comes from a Latin word, an old word, to mean sticky. And actually, if you want to remember this one, your grown-up who lends a hand here might remember in the olden days when they were at primary school, actually having glue in tins. Anyway, that's a good way to remember it, gluten. So we're going to got gluten. Now, we want that with bread, and we want that with cakes, because we want a structure for our cakes and a structure for our bread, but we don't want that for our pastry. So we are going to stop that gluten happening by giving all our flour waterproof jackets. And that is a process that we call, again, a GCSE word, shortening. So let's get some GCSE in there straight away. Shortening, because, there we go, shortening. An easy way to remember that is because we're making them teeny tiny short, teeny tiny small, not long, but short when we do this one. So we've got the butter. So next then, after we've cut it in, we're going to rub it in. Now, we are going to use the very ends, pinch your fingers. Can you show me your pinch your fingers? Just like that. That's it. Pinch your fingers. We're going to use the very, very ends of our pinch your fingers. The reason is because our hands are really warm, but the ends are really, really cool. So we're going to use the very ends of our fingers. And the reason we do that, let's have a think. Why don't we want to use the hot parts of our hand? What ingredients in there? And what might happen if we use the hot part of our hands? What ingredients are in there? What ingredients in there? Come on, someone tell me there. Let me see. Can anyone write that one down? What ingredients are in there and what might happen if we, that's it, there's butter in there. It's going to melt, absolutely. So we're going to use a pinchy finger so it doesn't do that one. We don't want it to melt. We want it to do a job for us. It's going to do these waterproof jackets around our flour. So we're going to get our fingers now inside this flour and we're going to rub it together. So here we go. Just going to show you, move my camera down a little bit so you can see that. So I'm going to get my fingers in there and I'm going to lift and tickle really, really quickly. Really, really quickly. Each time I'm doing it, I'm rubbing it and I'm going to lift and tickle, lift and tickle, lift and tickle. And we're rubbing this together really, really quickly. Rubbing it together, lifting and tickling, lifting and tickling, lifting and tickling, lifting and tickling. You may have made a crumble this way. You might have then put some oats in there and then laid that on top of some frozen fruit or some fresh picked, chopped up fruit and made yourself a little crumble. But it's a similar sort of thing we're doing here. We're just going to create that crumbly texture because we want a lovely, crumbly, short pastry. Now, if we're making a short pastry and we're using shortening, can anyone guess the name of the pastry we're making today then? We're using a shortening. That's covering all of our flour with little bits of butter. We'll use that, and we are. Does anyone know? Can anyone guess the name of the pastry we're making today, which is involved shortening? Anyone know? It's a short crust pastry. That's why it's called short crust pastry. Yes, we are making a short crust pastry. So we're crumbling all this together. Now, little tip for you here. If your fingers start to stick, they shouldn't do. You should be able to rub them. And it's all coming off now. There we are. Mine's all coming together. If it's fingers getting too sticky, stop. Or if your mixture turns yellow, stop. Because, as someone mentioned earlier, what's happening then is the butter is starting to melt. So we don't want it to melt. We just want it to mix up. So if it starts to, so mine at the moment are just, they're all crumbling off. When I do like that, it just comes off. So it's not sticking so much at the moment. And it's not going yellow. So I'm all right at the moment. I'm just going to keep doing that. And I'm lifting and tickling. I'm also adding air to my mixture as well. It's a little bit of crumbly pastry there, which is good. And that's another GCSE term called aeration. Well, lots of GCSE terms today. If you decide to take this one, and we find out at GCSE what makes the perfect pastry, what makes the perfect bread, how do you make things rise, how do you make things add air to them, how do you make things work. That's what we do at GCSE. Right, okay, there we go. This is all crumbly up nice and small now. The butter has almost completely disappeared, and I've got like a sandiness now. Can you see it's all that butter's disappeared? And what's happened there, it's began to coat all of that flour in my bowl. And so I've got a lovely short crust pastry being made there. Fabulous. Right, let's get back to me. Now, we've got the, oops, a bit further up. There we go. So we've done the cutting in and we've done the rubbing in. You see on the board there, cutting in, rubbing in. Now, I think we're really ready to make our pastry, but we need to glue it all back together, or in cookery terms, what we call binding it together. So what I'm going to do now is I've got some cold water from the tap here. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to put a tablespoon of water, cold water, because we don't want to use hot water, because what will happen to that butter? It's not going to be able to provide waterproof jackets if we put hot water in there, because what's going to happen to the butter? It's going to, you see the cookie stuff there. Type it in here if you can see if you can pick it. What's going to happen if we put hot water in with that butter and flour? It's going to melt the butter. That's right. So we're going to put some really cold tap water, and I've got a spoonful there, and I'm going to put that one in. Now I'm going to be putting in about 5 tablespoons, but start with half of it. So I'm going to put in 2, 3. I've got 3 large tablespoons of flour in there, water in there, ice cold water, and I'm going to use my knife, my rounded butter knife again. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to stir that together, okay? So I'm just going to move my camera down so you can see what's going on there. And I'm going to stir that together. So I've got my flour and my water, and I'm going to glue or bind all of that back together into a dough, a short crust pastry dough. So I'm going to stir. I've got 3 tablespoons of cold water, and I'm going to now, once I've stirred it once, I'm going to come back. I'm going to put a couple more tablespoons of cold water. There we go. In we go. I'm just going to pour a little bit more in. There we go. And I'm going to stir it again. Now, it's really important. You can always add water, but you can't take it away. So always gradually add your water when you're making your short crust pastry. Now, I'm stirring that together with my knife. And as I'm doing it, I'm actually going to press down against the side of the bowl as I'm stirring this together to make my short crust pastry. So there it goes. I'm actually starting to press down, pressing it all together into a ball now. I don't want very much water in there as well, because I don't want that sticky gluten stuff to be made. So I don't want too much water for that either. I just want to start to press it all back together into a ball now. I might have to just put 2 more bits of tablespoons of water in there. There we go. But gradually add this. Don't pour it all in at once. Because like I say, you can always add more water, but you can't really take it away. Now, if you have put too much water in at this point, then just go with putting a little couple of tablespoons of flour back in and stir this one. So if you have put too much water in, don't worry. You can always put a little bit of flour back in, but ideally that's going to change the recipe a little bit. So ideally, you just want to gradually put the water in. You can see what's happening there. I'm actually starting to come together into one big dough ball. I'm actually going to start to clean my bowl with that now. So I've got less washing up to do. I'm just going to literally press that against my bowl and clean my bowl with that dough. And as I do it, It's come together into a big ball in the middle, a big dough ball. Can you see that now? Can you just turn that around a little bit more so you can see what we've got there now is a wonderful short crust dough ball. Now, we can add other ingredients to that. When we get to GCSE, we might add sugar or we might add egg and different ingredients in it to make it even tastier, but it does become a really delicate and hard to manage pastry if you do that. Okay, that is my pastry done. Okay, so hopefully your pastry looks a little like that. If you're watching at home there, if you want to just, you're happy, if you're happy to, and if you want to, you can just show me your camera. If you want to show me what yours is looking like, and if you're a bit unsure and you need some help or guidance, you can just switch your camera on if you want to, just to show me what your pastry looks like. Don't have to, but if you're worried or if you want concerned or if you want to show me what you've done, that's fine. Perfect. That looks wonderful. Yeah, great pastry there. Loving that one. Well done. Lovely kitchen there as well. Very smart kitchen. If anyone else wants to show me theirs, they're happy to. If you're watching on YouTube, obviously you can email them in. There's an email contact there. So if you want to send me photographs as well, that's fabulous as well. Oh, we got the another one being shown there. Lovely pastry there in the middle. Lovely short crust pastry. Wonderful. That's looking great. Well done to you. Now, we have worked these pastries really, really well. Now, we're going to let them rest a little bit now. So what you can do is you can either put it in the fridge, just cover it over with a tea towel, just put it in the fridge for a minute. We're going to leave it somewhere to cool because we may have melted a little bit of the butter already. And we just want to make sure it's lovely and melted as well because we have been working the flour. So there may have been a little bit of gluten that have gone in there as well. So just to make sure it's all okay, we're going to go and leave this one in the fridge now. And we're going to work on our fillings. We're going to work on our vegetables. Now that should be exactly halfway through. There we go. Looking at my time clock there. We are. So we're coming up to the halfway mark. That's great. So we've made the pastry. That's well done to you all now. We are now going to put this somewhere. That's it. Melt. You're doing great here. We're going to put this somewhere to chill. So if you've got space in your fridge, you can do that one. Or if not, you can just leave it on the side if you haven't got space in the fridge. Leave it to what we call rest for a minute while we work on our fillings. Okay. So I'm going to go and put this one in the fridge. And I'm going to go and get my vegetables, which have been switched off now, and I'm going to put them in some ice cold water so I can start to use them. Here we go. So I'm going to put this one in the fridge. Good. That's in the fridge. Now ready to go. I'm going to make a bit more space for it to go in. That's in the fridge. I put mine in the fridge. I'm now going to go and get my vegetables. Good. I'm going to put those in some cold water. I'm going to bring my vegetables over to you now so you can see all of those wonderful vegetables. And we're going to do some cutting up. Now, again, if you haven't got vegetables you can use, fresh vegetables, then frozen or tinned vegetables work just as well. I'm going to show you for both of those how that can work. Okay, so let me just bring those over. Just going to bring those over to you. I've got my potatoes, my carrots, my parsnips, all hot. Let's make sure. Let's put those back in there. Put those in some water. Okay, good. Right, here we go. Just coming back over to the pan there. Now, what I've done is I've got my vegetables that were on the boil, and I've put them in some cold water. And they are ready to go. And I've also got my tinned vegetables here, so I can show you with those what we're going to be doing next. Okay, so we're going to be working on both of those. So what we're going to do now is I'm going to just clean down my board. We're going from pastry to our lovely filling. And I'm going to show you how to do some knife skills now. And we're going to chop some things up together. And I'm going to show you how to safely chop. I didn't put mine in the boil, that's fine. If you haven't got them, we can, like I say, we're also going to use some tinned vegetables for those who haven't got fresh vegetables that they're using, and I'm going to show you how to cut there. Now, again, you might have gone with some frozen vegetables, in which case you won't need to actually do any chopping. You can just watch me now and show you how to put those ones together, okay, and how you get from a potato like that to chopped potato there. So how do you get from fresh carrots and potatoes? So I've got the fresh carrots and potatoes that were boiling and have now been put in cold water. So how do you get to the chopped up ones that are in here? I'm going to show you. So if you haven't got those, we will show you how to do that one. Okay, so we've got all of our bits and pieces there. we now need to look at our knives and our cutting skills to be able to do this. So we're going to talk about some safety with the knives as well. So I'm just going to grab one more knife so you can see what I'm doing here with the knives. So there's lots of different types of knives out there, and I'm going to show you a few different varieties of knives that we can use. Okay, here we go. So there are lots of different types of knives out there, and we need to think of knife safety before we do anything else. So I'm just going to talk about the knives. So if you have had your fresh vegetables on the boil, if you want to get those ones off, get a grown-up maybe to help you who's lending a hand to get them off the boil, put them in some cold water now, just while we talk about knives. Okay, so if you can get a grown-up who's close to hand, because boiling water is hot and I don't want you to be burning yourself. Okay, so if you get them to pour the boiling water maybe down the sink, and then get the vegetables out, put those into a bowl of cold water so you're ready to start chopping with those. Again, don't worry if you didn't put them on the boil, that's fine. You can still be able to chop them once, and then we can always put them onto the boil after you chop them. So that's another way of doing it. So don't worry. So knives. Let's talk about knives. Now, probably the most common knife you've got at home is one of these. This is a small, sharp knife called a paring knife, and we use this one for vegetable cuts and fruit cuts. It's a lovely one for that. And it's a small version of one of these, which is like a chef's knife or a cook's knife. Now, we need to think about a few things when we are getting ready to cook. Okay, a few things that we need to work on when we're starting to use our knives, and that's our knife safety. So when you're using a knife, you need to be thinking about an ABC of using our knives. So let's just write those on the board. So what are the ABC of knife use? Have a grab a pen. Here we go. So we've got an A, a B, and a C. So I'm just going to show you on the board here what my ABC of knife use is. And I'm going to show you as well so you can see there. So A is for action, and that's the actions that we use with our knives. So that is how we use our knives. So when we're using a knife, you need to be carrying the knife so it's point down to the floor, blade to the back. Okay, so we're carrying it like a soldier, and we're carrying it down beside ourselves. So there's no chance if you get knocked of it hurting anyone else or hurting you. Okay, so we carry one knife at a time, and that's how we carry the knife. Don't carry a knife like that. If you carry a knife like that, you might hurt someone if you trip or fall, or you might hurt yourself. So we have it point to the floor, blade to the back, walking like a soldier, just one. That's the first one. Once you've got your knife, you're going to be putting it at the back of where you're working, okay? So you put it at the far side of where you're going to be working, rather than having it at the front. You don't want it sticking out towards you while it's on the chopping board. So put it at the very back of where you're working when you're not using it. When you pick it up to use it, then we need to think about how we're going to use it. And then finally, when we finish using it, it's really important that you clean it up properly. So when you take it to the washing up, you do not drop it into the washing up. Okay, you keep hold of it at all times. So you keep hold of that knife at all times, and you just use a brush, maybe a washing brush, just to brush away. So don't drop it into the washing up liquid. Take it out and bowl. Keep hold of it. Use a brush to clean it off. Don't be tempted to use a dishcloth to clean it, because you could hurt your hands. And then once you finish washing it, don't be tempted to use a tea towel to dry it. Put it at the very back again of wherever you're drying up. So if you've got a drying board, put it at the very back of that, okay? Right, so that's the A for actions. B is for the first of the ways that we cut. And we use one of these. We're going to make this shape with our thumb and forefinger and put our food in the middle of it. Okay, so here's my potato. I'm going to put that one into the middle of it. What is this shape here being made? Well, if I imagine that that is a shape, and I'm going to put my knife through the middle of it so it doesn't touch my fingers, this is a, well done, it's a bridge. Yes, it is a bridge. So B is for bridge. We're going to cut through the middle of vegetables like that, between our thumb and forefinger, holding our vegetables down, cutting down straight to the bottom, okay? That way we've got no way of being able to cut into our fingers, because we're holding our vegetables in the middle and we're cutting down with a bridge. Now, if you're a bit worried about bridges and you're a bit worried about cutting, don't worry, because I've got a little life hack for you again, another little tip for you here. And this is my instant 3 bridges. 1, 2, 3, otherwise known as a fork. And what you can do is you can hold the vegetables down like that and then put the knife through either 1, 2, or 3 of my little bridges. So there's my little life hack for you there. You can use that one as well. All right, so let's write that one down. That is B for bridge. Next, we've got C. So after a bridge, when we cut something really long and thin, and we're talking very tiny, long and thin, what we can do then is we can go into the next of our cuts, and that involves this, putting my fingers right back, so my thumb right back, my fingers over the top. Can you have a go at doing that? Put your thumb right back and fingers over the top. And this is a grr, grr. This is a, anyone have a guess? Anyone done one of these before? Grr, grr. It's the claw. It is indeed the claw. Okay, really important with this that your thumb is right back. And what you do now, I'm going to just show you with my chef knife so you can see easily what I'm doing. I put the blunt side against my knuckle and I cut away from my fingers, and I can cut that way using it. So the only side that comes close to my knuckles is the blunt side of the knife, okay, the really blunt side there. That's the only side that comes close to my knuckles, and I cut away using the see the diagonal there of my wrist, and I'm cutting away from it, and that's my claw. Okay, A, B, C of cutting safely. Okay, and using knives safely. So let's see that in action, shall we? Let me do that for you now on there. Now, the other final thing, life hack, again, if you're not confident having your hand so close to the cutting, here is a claw. You thought it was a fork, or maybe you thought it was 3 bridges, but it is also a claw. So you see there, and then what you can do is you can cut away like a claw. So there we are. Now let me show you this in practice, and I'm going to show you all of this. So I've got my knife. I'm going to use the larger knife so you can see what I'm doing, but I would like you to use this one, which is a paring knife, which is the smaller one if you've got one of these. And if you're unsure about any kind of cutting, stop, don't do it. Give a suitable grown-up who's lending a hand the chance to do it as well. But if you feel confident, that would be great for you to have a go if you can. And again, if you're really worried about getting your hand so close, you can also help by using a fork instead. I'm going to show you the correct way now using the knives. Okay, let's show you on the board. Let me get this on there. So I have got on the board here, let me get you close to the board. There we go. Oops. Hopefully you can see that one there. Let me move that one slightly over. There we go. Okay, so on the board here, I have got my potato. This potato was boiled and then was put into cold water, so it's nice and cool now. Okay, and now what I'm going to do is I'm going to chop it up. Now, this potato is not long and thin at the moment, so we need to start the cutting. Now, at the end of my board here, I have got my knife. Now, so I should be using a smaller one. In fact, we will use a smaller one. We'll use a paring knife. I'm going to create a bridge. So I put my thumb and forefinger around it, and I'm going to cut down the middle, safely down the middle. I'm going to do a few, if this is a train going through a bridge, I'm going to do a few railway tracks, a few cuts. You see what I've done there? There we go. And I've cut down there a couple of times. I could go a bit closer if I wanted to. And what I've got there is I've got them, so they cut them so they're long and thin. You see there, if I just pull that apart now, I've got my potato cut up. Now, is it long and thin? Well, it's nearly long and thin. If I just lay those out, and you can see those ones on the board, they're nearly long and thin. But what I'm going to do now, let's move this out of the way. I'm now going to go use my bridge again, thumb and forefinger, and I'm going to make them even longer and thinner. So I'm going to do some of those railway tracks again. You see what I've done there? So they almost look like chips now. You can see that on the board now. So we've got some long chips. We'll do the same with all of these. So let's just go around bridge. So they do look like chips now. We've got a name for this. When we cut them into long strips like this, we talk about this at GCSE, is julienne or jardinier. We've got some French names for how we do these cuts. You see what I've done there? I'm going to do the same with these ones. So long, thin strips, just like that. Perfect. Now, once I've done my cuts that way, they're now definitely long and thin. Look at that. That's definitely a long and thin one now. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to go the other way. So really important, thumbs right back, fingers over the top. Do not leave that thumb out. If you leave your thumb out and you try and chop back, you're going to end up chopping the end of your thumb off. So really important, thumbs right back, fingers over there, and then you just chop them back. Let's do one so you can see. Let's move all these to the side so you can see in the middle there. What am I doing? So let's give you one there. So I've got my bridge, and I'm now going to do my claw. Thumb right back, finger over the top. I'm going to slice, slice, moving back. Each time I'm moving my claw back, and I'm doing these into tiny little bits. Now these are now 6-sided cuboids. If I was having dots on those to play a game with, it would be called a... Oh, who's going to be quickest off this one? A 6-sided cuboid, which if I put dots on it in a game, it would be called a... That's right, a dice. So this is actually a dicing up your vegetables. So we are dicing up. Now you might have already got some mixed diced vegetables. Okay, so you might have already got those. This is how we get to it. So that's perfect. Now I'm going to chop up the rest of these diced potato. There we go. I'm doing dice these ones up. The same. I'm going to do claw. I'm going to just chop over the top and do a few at the same time there. Diced vegetables. I'm going to do the same again. Claw, thumb right back. Moving my fingers back each time so it's well out of the way. And again. Now, depending on how big these dices are, or dice, depending on how big the dice are, you got different names for these. So again, at GCSE, we've got things called brunoise or macédoine. These are different ways of being, we give to different, whether they're big or small dice. This one today, we are just going to dice up. Now, if some of the skin comes off, you can keep that or throw it away. It's up to you. It doesn't matter. You might have actually peeled your vegetables beforehand because some potatoes won't have the skin on. So let's show you what that would look like if you were doing this one from a canned vegetables. Now with the canned vegetables, you don't actually need to use a paring knife. You can go back and use your butter knife for this one. So if I've got my canned vegetables, here we go. There's my canned vegetables. So I'm now just going to open my canned vegetables. I don't need the water that's inside my vegetables. These are already soft and ready to go. In fact, you don't even need to cut these ones. You could just crumble these ones up if you wanted to. There we go. Just going to chop that one up. Open that can. Okay. So I've got my tinned potatoes there. And what I can do now with these ones, if I'm using a tinned potato rather than a fresh potato, I can just put that one in the middle. And actually, rather than even using a sharp knife, I can use a butter knife with this one. So I've got my butter knife there from earlier. And again, bridge. And this one's can actually be done. You see what that's done? I've actually just done it. I'm just bridging it. Just like we did with the other one. Now when they're flat on there, we're going to bridge it again. So they're long and thin, almost like chips. You see that? Now, so we've got long, thin pieces, and then we're going to go the other way. After we've done the bridge, I'm going to do a claw. So thumb right back, finger over the top. There we go. You see? So we can use tinned potatoes, we can use fresh potatoes, we can use frozen potatoes to go into this one. So lots of each one, and each time we're making a dice, bridge and then claw, bridge and then claw. And you keep doing bridges and claws until all your vegetables are done. So we've got some tinned potatoes there. We've got fresh potatoes there. Now let's have a look at another one. Now this is a tricky one because this is already, well, it's nearly long and thin already, but we do need to still start with a bridge and a claw. So let's use a different vegetable now. So I'm using my carrot. You see where I've gone there? I'm going to make a bridge. So let's go back to that paring knife. Let's move those out of the way for you so you can see. So I've got my paring knife. There we go. And what I'm going to do with my paring knife now is I'm going to go down the middle and form a bridge. And that's made it kind of long and thin. I'm going to make it, I'm just going to chop the ends off actually first. Let's just chop those ends off it. Okay, so we've got now our carrots. I'm going to do another bridge. So straight down the middle. Okay, and another bridge on this one, straight down the middle. Now mine are long and thin, a bit like those chips that we did earlier. So now we can start cutting it the other way. Now they're long and thin. We go with our claw right, finger, thumb right back, claw over the top. And we're now just going to chop back there. So I've now got carrots and potato. And I'm going to then claw right back. There we go. I'm going to keep doing this. Our seasonal vegetables. Lovely. I've got carrots, potatoes, and we keep doing the same. Now I did show you, say I'd show you this one. Now this one is also a potato, but look at the colour of it. Let's have a look inside this one. I'm going to bridge inside it. And this, it's purple. It's a purple potato. Look at that. How cool is that? What a wonderful colour is that? And we cut this one up in exactly the same way. Okay, so we just use a bridge. And we just keep bridging it until it's long and thin. And then once you've got it long and thin, oh look, it's still not long and thin. We're going to make, I think we can do another bridge there. Okay, and then once we've got them long and thin, we can then cut the other way. And we've got the dice. Look at those colours. Look at those beautiful colours. I tell you what, using root vegetables here, seasonal root vegetables, beautiful. Look at that. That is purple. It's bright purple. How cool is that? I love it. So we carry on doing that until we've got lots of diced vegetables. And again, you might have used frozen vegetables, you might use canned vegetables, but either way, bridge and claw over the top until we've got our cubed vegetables to go in the middle. So claw, and then when they're long and thin, we're going to chop them up. So bridge and claw, sorry, bridge and claw. There we go. Lovely vegetables, lots of lovely vegetables. Oh, love it. Now, someone asked about the stock. So this is the point where we're going to add our stock to it. So we're going to add a little bit of stock to this one. So I've got my stock cube there, a crumbly stock cube. I'm going to get my bit of stock cube and I'm going to just crumble some of my stock cube over the top of this. There we are, crumble, 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 crumble. You might want to put some curry powder over this. You could put some cheese on this. Whatever you want to do to start flavouring this one would be delicious, okay, to go with your vegetables. You might want to say done the same with your either chopped vegetables or fresh vegetables. Whatever you've done, that's great. I'm now going to get those all into another bowl. So I've got another bowl here. I'm going to put those all in and we're going to go get our pastry out next, okay. So I'm going to get all of those put into a bowl. So let's get all of my wonderful colours of fresh vegetables, fresh root vegetables, seasonal fresh root vegetables there. My potatoes, both my white potatoes and my purple potatoes, my carrots in there. They are, look at those colours. They've got some beautiful colours. I've got my stock in there as well. That's great. I tell you what, I'm going to put the potato, some of my tinned potato in there as well. Lots of lovely potatoes and carrots and vegetables in there. Really good. I'll tell you what, I'm going to mix it. We're going to do everything that you might have at home here. So I'm going to put in some that frozen vegetables, which is again, it's got all the vitamins and minerals locked in there. Can you see that one? So we put some of that in there, some peas and cauliflower in there as well. It's just going to cram this full of vegetables, lots and lots of vegetables going in there. love it. We're just going to mix it all up. I'm going to make loads of these pasties, I think. There we go. Now you can make as many of these pasties as you want. You can double up your recipe, you can triple up your recipe, you can times it by 10, depending on how many pasties you want to make. But now I've got a good colourful mix of it. And what do they always say? Well, they say eat the rainbow, don't they? And we've got some purples, greens, yellows, whites, all sorts of different colours going on in there. And they are looking beautiful and lovely. And I've mixed in there some stock, mixing some bit of pepper in there, a bit of curry powder maybe, some cheese maybe into that one. So we've got a beautiful, beautiful mix there. Right, let's move that one to the side and let's go and get our pastry. So that's our centre done. We've done about cutting skills. We're now going to get on back to our pastry. So let's go and get our pastry out. I'm going to return to my board. Let's go and have a look at that. So if you want to go and get your pastries out now, we're going to get back to this stage now. We're going to go on to step number... Here we go. We're going to go on to step number 6. We're going to go on to the rolling out stage. And then we're going to fill them and make our pasties. So if you want to go and get all your short crust pastry out of the fridge, that would be fabulous. There we go, move that camera so you can see me. Go and get those out of the fridge now. That would be great. Okay, I'm going to get mine out. Here we go. So that's mine out of the fridge in a true Blue Peter fashion. Here's one I made earlier. And what we're going to do now is we're going to now roll that one out beautifully on our boards. Okay, so we're all going to do that one together. Now, what I would suggest is getting a little bit of flour. You might have a flour dredger at home. I don't know, that's like a little shaker for putting flour on your work surface. If not, like I say, we're not in school today, so we haven't got any there. I'm just going to get some flour and I'm just going to sprinkle that one onto my board, onto my work surface there. Okay, put a bit of flour on there. Beautiful. It's like it's snowing. Might be snowing where you are. It's not snowing here yet. Sad face. But maybe it's snowing where you are. So we got some snow of flour on there. Next thing we need is our rolling pin. Okay, so we need a rolling pin, or like I said, use it something else, like a greaseproof paper if you want to. We're going to scatter the flour onto the rolling pin as well. Cover our flour there so it doesn't stick onto our rolling pin. So I've just got that flour as well. Excellent. And now we're going to start to roll out our pastry. So this is my short crust pastry, nice and cool now. Don't want to hold this for too long. I'm going to put this one onto my chopping board. Okay, so you're going to do the same. Put your short crust pastry, don't handle it loads. Okay, so we don't want to handle it. I'm just going to put that one onto my pastry board. There we go. Hopefully you can see that one at home as well. There it is. So I've got my pastry on my board there. And what we're going to do now is we are going to roll this pastry out. Okay, so we've got pastries on there. Don't overhandle it, but it's lovely on there. It actually looks a little bit like a snowball. Let's put some more flour on it so it looks a bit more like a snowball. There we go. Now it's looking a bit more like a snowball. What we're going to do now is we're going to roll that one out into a nice circle or a rectangle. There we go. I'm just going to turn it over so it doesn't stick. So you keep turning it over. It won't stick because you can use the flour as you're doing it. So a little tip for you there. Just keep flipping it over. How thin does it need to go? Well, we're looking at probably about somewhere between a pound coin and a 20p piece, probably. Somewhere between the two. There we go. I'm just rolling that one out. And again, just flipping that one over so I can see it. Good. That is my pastry, which is now rolling out really nicely onto my board. Okay, so that's my pastry rolled out. And we're going to press the pastry out on the floured surface. We've got our mixed filling, which we've already made up for you. We need about 100 grams for each one of these. We're going to be cutting these out and putting these onto trays. So what I would suggest we do now is we get our trays ready. So I'm using, I'm just using an oven tray here. Here's my oven tray. And I'm going to put on there some greaseproof paper. Do you remember that greaseproof paper I had earlier? Maybe you don't need that. Maybe you've got a non-stick pan. You might have one of these rubberized ones, which you won't need to. I've just got a standard tin here that you might have at home. So I'm just going to cut myself a piece of greaseproof paper to go over that. Because I haven't, mine's not a non-stick. Let's cut that one up. Put that one over there. Just cut a rectangle of greaseproof paper to go into this one. There we go. Just going to cut myself a little piece of greaseproof paper just to go there so it doesn't, my pasty doesn't stick to the pan, and I've got something nice to take it out. There we go. So I've got myself greaseproof paper cut out onto my tray, ready for my pasty to go onto so it doesn't stick there. Can you see that one? Hopefully you've got the same. Now I've got that ready, I'm going to start to make my pasty. Now I'm going to actually use a bowl, or say you could use a plate, or you could use a different sort of, say if you've got a saucer, maybe that sort of size, or a large one, large cutter. So I'm just going to put that one onto the top here. I'm going to cut myself out a pasty. And you might want to make small pasties. You could make mini pasties if you wanted to with a large biscuit cutter. I'm just going to use my knife just to cut around there. There we go. You see my pasty shape there? Don't worry about the rest of it, because we can roll that one up to make another one. There's my circle. I'm going to roll that one together and make another one. So this is my first pasty. Beautiful. What I'm going to do is I'm going to lift that pasty shape and put it straight onto my tray now. So it's going to make it easier. Otherwise, when you put your filling in, it'll go everywhere when you're trying to do this one. So I'm lifting this one straight onto my tray now. There's my circle. Now, the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to get some water again. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to put my fingers, or you could use a pastry brush, but I'm going to just use my fingers this one. I'm going to pour some water, just some cold tap water, into a little bowl. I'm going to use my fingers, and I'm going to be putting my fingers all the way around the outside of my pasty. Can you see that, what I'm doing there? I'm making a little border all the way around the outside of my pasty. Wonderful. Now that border is going to be a little bit sticky, because don't forget the pastry is made with flour, and I've just put some water on it. But that's what we want for this one, because it's going to glue it together. Now I'm going to get my filling, let's have a look and see what we've got in that filling. So we've got some stock in there. We've got vegetable stock in there, and I said I might put a little bit of curry powder on there as well, and maybe I'd even put a little bit of cheese on there if I wanted to. Maybe I've got a little bit of cheese I can put on there. Yeah, I've got some cheese that we can put on there as well. A little bit of cheese on there. You can make your filling whatever flavour you want. Like I say, if you wanted to have a meat filling, you could have a meat filling. So here we've got my filling. Now what I've got here is I've got some curry powder. So I'm going to put a little teaspoon of that curry powder on there. So just a standard curry powder there. Some mild curry. I'm going to put a little bit of that in there, because that works really nicely with the vegetables. There we are. A little bit of curry powder in there. I might put a little bit more in there. Make it a bit hotter. Good. So I seasoned it with stock, a bit of curry powder. I can put a little bit of cheese in there as well if I wanted to. There we go. A little bit of cheese. If you wanted to put a little bit of cheese in there, just put a little bit of cheese in there. Now you can use a dairy cheese if you wanted to, or if you haven't got dairy cheese, we'll put them in there. You could use a dairy alternative. We've got a dairy alternative there, a block alternative. You could use one of those. Okay. I'm going to stir my mix together, ready to go in. Now, if your grown-up is standing around not doing anything at the moment, you just might want to ask them to preheat the oven. The ovens need to be preheated to 220 degrees, or gas mark 6 on that one. So you could get them to do that while we're just getting this together. That would be lovely if they're standing there wondering what to do. Thank you, grown-up. Please, could you just preheat the oven, please, to 200 degrees for us? Don't worry, I'm going to do mine in a minute. Now, time for the fun bit. We're going to load up our pasty. That's going to be, look, it's looking really colourful already. I've got greens and oranges in there. Now, I'm not going to go right to the outside here, because I want to leave a little bit of a border there. That is looking beautiful. Okay. So what we're going to do now is I'm just going to just going to put that one over there so we can use that one again in a minute. Right. Okay, so what I'm doing now is I'm just going to put the filling in there. I'm going to put that together. So you can see what I'm doing there. What I'm going to do now, I'll just turn the camera around so you can see it a little bit better. What I'm going to do is I'm now going to fold the filling into our pasty. Do you see what I just did there? Just fold it in half. Now, then I'm going to push those pieces together. Now you could have a pasty like that, and that would be something more like, I suppose, oh, well, but that's a Cornish pasty, isn't it? So that's a flat pasty there. But we want to try and make it a Devon pasty, because we're here in Devon. So if you turn it on its side, now we've got a Devon pasty. So we've got Devon pasties are up like that. Cornish pasties are down like that. I'll let you choose which one you want to do. But what I do want you to try and do is have a think about your decoration. And what we're going to do here is we're going to crimp these together. Now that's very simply, we're just going to form a little zigzag, almost like a dinosaur crimping on there. I'm just using my thumb and forefinger just to make a little crimp along there for my vegetable pasty. And hopefully yours is shaped a little bit like that now, with a little zigzaggy crimp along there. Like I say, you can make it a Devon one like this, or if you want to, you can make it a Cornish one lying down. That is my first pasty. Okay, now what I'm going to do with that, I'm going to just get a little bit of egg or milk. You can use egg or milk for this one, it doesn't matter. So I've got another little pot there. Let's grab that pot there. And we'll get some egg in there. So I'm going to grab a little bit of egg. Where's my egg? There we go. Another bowl. There we go. So got another bowl there. I'm just going to put a little bit of egg in there, or you can put milk or egg or milk alternative. I don't mind which one you use for that. That's entirely up to you. And we're going to paint this so it is a beautiful colour when it comes out of the oven. This is going to give it what we call a glaze. By putting a protein on here, which is like I say an egg or a protein, we're going to give it a lovely glaze. So what I've got here is got my pastry brush, but like I say, you could use a paintbrush if you have one of those. It's all nice and clean. And we're going to be brushing this one over. Okay, so let's grab a little bit of egg. I think we're going to use the eggs instead of the milk today. There we go. Just going to crack my egg. Good news. And I'm just going to use my fork there. And I'm just going to, there we go, it's my egg. But I say I could use a chickpea water, I could use milk on this one. That'll be fine. All right, now I'm going to use a pastry brush to brush my pastry with an egg glaze on there, all the way over. So it's got a beautiful colouring on it. Beautiful. I'm going to do the same on the next one too. I'm going to do exactly the same thing. I'll do it together with you. So we've got the first pasty ready to go. In fact, while I'm doing that one, I'm just going to go and preheat my oven as well. Let's go and preheat my oven to 200 degrees as well. Excellent. Mine's now preheated as well. Back to me then. So I'm now going to roll out the next of these. Let's put that one back on the side for a moment. Okay, and let's roll out the next one. So very lightly, don't want to be over handling it. A little bit of flour on there. Let's get a little bit more flour on there. There we go, flour on there. Wonderful. I'm going to roll that one out. Let's keep flipping it over. Rolling it out. Wonderful. And now I'm going to cut another one out, another circle out. Reuse my bowl again. Cut round that one. You could use a butter knife for this cut around this one actually. Just using that one. Power knife just for quick. Pull that one up. And you should get 2 large pasties or 4 mini pasties if you're using a large biscuit cutter. There we go. Wonderful. Now I'm going to put my fingers in the water. Remember the water? All the way around the outside. There we go. So that's going to form my border and that's going to stick my pasty together. Back to the filling again. So let's grab that filling again. That beautiful cheesy, vegetable-y, seasoned filling for my veggie pasties. Look at the colours again. I love these colours. We've got all sorts of colours going on in there. Green and orange, and hopefully yours is looking something like this one as well. Cheese in there as well. Wonderful. Some more filling in there. Don't overfill it, otherwise you won't be able to. But I'll see what I'm going to do. I'm going to make a couple more of these ones as well. I'm going to make some more of these afterwards, later on today, I think. Make some more at lunch because we've got lots of filling here. Make some more pastry. Wonderful. So we've got some more cheese. Oh yeah, cheese as well. Good news. Good news. Some more carrot in there as well. It's probably a bit too much actually, but just leave the border around the outside. There we go. All done. Push that one into the middle. Border around the outside. We're going to flip this one over. I didn't do this one on the tray. I'll go and get the tray back in a minute. Yeah, I've put a bit too much in there. I'll take some of that out. Just trying to be greedy. There we go. Let's lift that one onto the tray, same as we did before. So we're going to go into trays, and let's do our crimping. Join those two pieces together. So I'm just going to do a little crimp all the way around. You can get fancy with your crimps if you want. You can lay yours down, like I say, as a Cornish pasty rather than a Devon pasty if you want. That's up to you. That's all sealed in nicely. Just make sure that's shaped up nicely as well. Yeah, nicely shaped pasty there. Good news. Okay, I've got my egg wash there. Just going to brush that egg all over the outside of my pasty. Fabulous. Okay, that's looking really lovely. All nicely done. Good. More there. And you can personalize these if you want to. You can cut out your initials and stick those on the side if you want. That's good. All ready to go into the oven. So I've got my two pasties there ready to go. I've got more filling. So I'll tell you what I'm going to do after this. I'm going to make some more of these. So we got loads for lunch today. Okay. Now, any questions before I go and put these in the oven? I'm going to go put them in the oven, and then we'll take any questions anyone's got. So we got those ones there, and we'll go back and get any more questions. So we're going to get them. So we're now at number 10. Fold and crimp, sealing everything in together. Be careful, obviously, like I say before. We're going to get them in and out of the oven. So you're going to need to have some oven gloves. Right. Remember oven safety. Now, when you've got a door, you might have a door that comes down or a door that goes out. You can still catch your fingers and your wrists on the oven, even wearing an oven glove. So please, can you remember when you're putting things in and out of the oven that you have somebody helping you? Really important that you have somebody helping you there. Then somebody can pull down the oven while you put the food into the oven, the tray into the oven carefully. And then you can get somebody to shut it as well. So it's not going to come back on you. The door's not going to come back whether you've got a down oven or a slidey oven or an oven that opens that way. So oven gloves, you're going to need 2 of those, and you're going to need to get those into the oven, okay? So you're going to need to hold the tray with the oven glove and get that one into the tray. Same when you're getting yours out. So be careful with oven safety, all right? The next thing you need to do is, we're going to need to be putting this one in the oven, and we're going to be baking this off for about 15-20 minutes. So here we go. In this one goes. I'm going to put this one into the oven now. Let's get this one in. In it goes. Hold down the oven. Into the preheated oven. In that goes. That's looking good. So make sure that's all shut properly. Yep. In that goes. Alrighty. So I had my oven gloves on when I was doing that one. Ooh, there we go. I had my oven gloves on when I was doing that one. So hopefully you've got your oven gloves on. When you were doing that one, and you're going to get them out the same. Right, question time. Any questions? How long are we roughly baking them for? Now, this depends on whether you made mini ones, which are half that size, using biscuit cutter, which will take about 10-15 minutes to cook, or whether you did the ones that I did today, which would take about 20 minutes to cook. Okay, so it depends on how long, how big you made yours, decided to make yours. Depends on the cooking time there. But my ones, I'm going to be putting in there for 15 to 20 minutes. Your ones, if you made them half the size, would be 10 to 15 minutes. Okay, so a little bit long, a little bit less time. What are we looking for? Basically, what we're looking for them is a golden brown colour. The short crust pastry will harden. Okay, so we're going to have a hardened finish to it, and it will be golden brown. And that's when we'll know that they are properly done. Okay, so that's how we're going to know whether our vegetable pasties, which we've looked at food provenance. Remember, that's where your food comes from. So we look at seasonality and what's in season with root vegetables. We looked at what gluten is, and for today, we needed to make sure that we do not have gluten on ours because we did shortening. Okay, so we did shortening, which was great. Yay, we did shortening. We don't want gluten. And then we used knives A, B, C of a knife safety today. Right, any questions before we go any further? Has anyone got any questions for me today? I say either on YouTube there or on Talkie Girls Grammar before we carry on. Now you'll notice that the timing wise here, we now have got just over 15 minutes, nearly 20 minutes left of the lesson, which is perfect timing. So we'll be able to get these out and show you what they look like at the very end of the lesson. So what is the next stage of the lesson? Have you completed everything? Well, nearly for our vegetable pasties, have you completed everything? There is something left we need to do. So let me just go on to that next slide. So the next slide, really important for us all, and that is washing up and cleaning up. Okay, now this might seem an obvious thing to do, but I need to go through this step by step for you so you know exactly what's going on here. We're going to collect all your equipment together and you are going to be washing it all up. The first thing you do though, before you start washing up, is you need to make sure that you have got your knives and sharps done. So I've got my paring knife, which I've used today, and chef's knife. The first thing I'm going to wash up is going to be my knife. I'm going to take my knife, point to the floor, blade to the back, over to the sink, okay, and I'm going to be washing that one up first. When you're washing up, can you please make sure you're using as hot soapy water as you can, so as hot as you can in there when you're washing up, so it's comfortable, you're not going to hurt yourself though. Make sure you're also putting in there some detergent, okay, so you're actually putting in there some washing up liquid that is going to clean these ones as well. You're going to be using washing the knife up first. You're not going to use a cloth, remember, you're going to use a brush, you're going to brush away, you're not going to let it drop into the sink with hot soapy water because you're not going to be able to find it, and then you're going to hurt yourself trying to go and pick it up. So make sure you put that one in and use the brush to brush it off, not a dishcloth. Then you're going to be putting that one onto the back of your drying area. You are not going to be using a tea towel. If you use a tea towel, again, you could got a chance of being able to cut yourself when you do that one. So let that one drip dry. Once you've done the knives, and you might have a couple of knives to do, once you've done the knives, you're then going to go on to any other sharps that you might have. So what have we got today? We've got the chopping, we've got the cheese graters. So try and get the sharps out of the way first. The cheese grater is a good one, and that'll need to be done next. Then you need to start working with the other utensils, the bowls, the knives, go with the bowls, the knives, the forks, the spoons. All of that needs washing up there. Please be careful when you are putting things on the draining board that you don't overstack them, because if you overstack them, they're going to fall and hurt yourself. So please make sure that you're putting them on the draining board safely. On the other hand, you might be cheating and using a dishwasher, in which case you might be loading it all into the dishwasher and doing it that way. Whichever way you're doing it, can you please make sure you're cleaning up properly? I don't want any messages from parents saying you haven't done so. Okay. Now, once you've washed up everything, we come to this area here, where area you've been working in, your desktop, your worktop, wherever you've been working. Please do not put hot soapy water on them just yet. What you need to do is you need to scrape down as much of that flour and food surplus off your work surfaces first. Maybe put them into a bowl, take them to your composting area or your compost bin, put them all into your bin, then go back to your work surface. Because if you put hot soapy water onto a work surface where you've been using flour and a floury rolling pin, then what's going to happen is you are going to end up with a very sticky work surface. It's going to be a nightmare to clean down. It can take you for ages. So when you come to washing or cleaning your work surfaces, scrape down everything on all your excess food first, clean off any excess flour first, then go in with the hot soapy water. Because if you put water on flour, what sticky stuff are we creating? What's the sticky stuff? Who's going to be first to tell me on there? What is the sticky stuff we'll be creating? That's it. It's the gluten. That's right. You'll be creating a paste, a gluten paste, and that's it. And we don't want gluten paste. It's good for some things. It's great for providing a structure to your bread and to your cakes. It's great for that. And it's really good for providing structures to some of our advanced pastries that we do in year 9 and 10, which is like we call it a laminated pastry, where you have a croissant or a really flaky pastry like that, or a millefeuille. It's like 1,000 layers later, so that's a million layers. But anyway, lots of layered cakes. There we need the gluten. We do not want gluten on your work surfaces because, like I say, it's a nightmare to clean down. So scrape down everything first. Only when you scrape down as much flour as you can and as much stuff off your work surface do we come in with some hot soapy water to clean it all up. And then finally, if you've got an anti-bac spray, a sanitizing spray or something like that, you can clean off the work surface well so that when you come to eat off it and you prepare food again, it's nice and clean and we don't get any contaminants from the food from today. Whew. Nearly at the end of the show, the class today. So there we go. We've got that down. Now, everything else, obviously, you can use a tea towel to dry with. It's only the knives and sharps I don't want you to. So dry down your work surface, dry down your equipment that you've used using a nice clean tea towel. So it's all ready to put your equipment back away and all your ingredients back away. So you're left with a kitchen that is beautiful and clean. And while you're doing that, obviously your food is cooking away nicely in your oven. And it should be, if it's anything like me, I am smelling beautiful baked goods going on in my kitchen now. I can smell it's coming in. It's wafting over this way already from my wonderful oven. I can smell it coming out. So we'll be nearly ready. Right, I've talked for way too long and obviously been teaching as well. Questions? Anyone got any questions or queries about today? Anyone else out there want to got any questions? Any shout outs you want to do today? I'm happy to do on YouTube as well on school. Any comments you want to leave down the side question wise or shout outs down the side on your comments? No, good. Okay, if you do, just type away, either say YouTube or the class, that's fine. What I do would love to see, is some photographs of what it's looking like. Okay, so I'd love to see photos of your food. Talking Girls Grammar, you know where to put those. It's down the chat, on the general chat. I want to see photos of what you've made. You won't be making them right now, but when you do, can you get those photos on there so I can see what you've been doing? If you're watching on YouTube, we would also love to see your photos. So go to the About Us section of the YouTube, and you'll find the email address there. You can send your photos in to us so we can see what you've been cooking. I know we've been cooking from all around the world the last couple of weeks. We've had schools in Brazil, of all places, who've been learning their English and cooking along at the same time. We've had a school in the eastern side of Africa, which is amazing as well to have you on board, as well as those around the UK in Loughborough and Leicester. I know we've got schools who are watching that one and cooking along today as well. So for those who are in Loughborough and Leicester, big thumbs up to you as well this morning at your schools. Great to see you there. I say, if you any other schools that are watching, please let us know. Right. Questions. Oh, right. Questions. Here we go. So yes, it was 200 degrees there. Let me just go back to the recipe. So someone's just querying the temperature. Let me go back to the recipe there for you, so we can just know that one. It's 200 degrees or gas mark 6 is what we were looking for on there. 200 degrees in a fan assisted oven, 220 in a non-fan assisted oven, and if you've got an Arga, you're going to have a bit of a play on there. You know best for an Arga. You know what that's it. I know everyone's got different heating devices at home. It's not the same as being in school, so they're all slightly different. So hopefully those temperatures will be good for you too. So 200 for fan assisted, 220 non-fan assisted, 6 for a gas oven. Okay, so we've covered that there. Right, other questions coming in now. Yes, post them in the chat. That would be fabulous. Assignments. Do we have an assignment sheet this week? No. This week, remember, we're having a holiday from homework at Talkie Girls Grammar School. So because of all that I've made you work the whole double lesson. So no, if you can post your photos through the chat, that would be great, and I'll take account of who has been doing that. Fabulous. Good. Really enjoyed this. I hope the grown-ups enjoyed this too. And we'll be having these for those who are watching at Talkie Girls Grammar School. You'll have your cooking every fortnight. So you've got yours on there in a fortnight's time. During your double lessons there, and you've got yours. So you'll be having yours in a fortnight's time. We've got a bit of theory to do next week. And you'll be joining us again. The recipes, as always, will be posted up in the week before, so you've got a chance to get hold of all of those. Right, let's have a look. Anyone else? Any more questions? We've got questions coming in thick and fast here. Good. That's good. You really enjoyed it. I'm glad you enjoyed today's show. And again, we'll be doing this again with some more bits and pieces coming up. Right. Anyone else? Any more shout outs from who want to shout out on YouTube? No. I've got a few people watching there. Some thumbs up on YouTube. We love thumbs up. Don't forget to subscribe to Fun Kitchen so you can join us each week for different ones. Now, if you like this recipe and you enjoyed today, all of my lockdown lessons are available free of charge on YouTube. They're all there, so you can see any lockdown lessons from year 7 all the way up to year 11. And there's lots of different recipes you can choose from on there, and you can cook along with me there. They're all available in the lockdown lessons section of the classes there. So you can join any of those classes at any point, and they're all recorded after I've broadcast them live. So you can go back and have a look at any of the recipes there. And underneath each of the recorded YouTube recipes, you've got all the list of ingredients and equipment that you'll need for each one before you start having a go at each one. Don't forget, like I say, please make sure if you are cooking at home and cooking along with me, that you also are cooking it in, you're safe to cook along, you have permission to cook along, and you have a grown-up to lend a hand each time. Okay, and it's whatever you cook, love to see some photos. Right, more things coming in. My mum really enjoyed watching watching me do the washing up. Good. Well, you should be doing the washing up. Good. Same as school would be. Thanks so much for this amazing lesson. Thank you very much. It's very kind of you. It's very kind indeed. Right. I will go and see whether we've got the last 5 minutes. I'm going to go and see whether mine are done, and I'll show you what they look like before we can have a little taster of those. And for Talkie Girls Grammar, you're about to have break, so hopefully this will be a lovely break time addition to your food here. Let me just have a see how they look. Oh, they do need about 5 more minutes. They are nearly there. They're nearly there. But about 5 more minutes and they will be done. They are looking golden brown already, but they've kind of got like a yellowy brownness on them. They're nearly done with golden brown. I'm just going to stay online while you finish off your washing up, and hopefully we can see some of yours coming out soon as well. So if you've made tiny little ones, your ones should be coming out fairly shortly. So you're more than welcome now. If you want to turn your cameras on so you can show your bakes once they come out of the oven. Don't forget, when they're coming out of the oven, please use your oven gloves to be using it, and please make sure you've got somebody to lend a hand when those are coming out. Has anyone got any photos that they can share so far of what they've made? When you do, just say feel free to get your camera open and we'll have a look at those. So what we'll be covering in next week's lesson, that's a good question as well. We'll be going over a little bit more detail about preparation with your worksheets for next lesson. We'll be looking at recapping your learning on knife skills and what you remembered from that. And we'll also be looking at recapping a bit about the food hygiene before you start to cook. So that'll be the next lesson. Look at those. We've got some personalized pasties there. I love it. Well done. Good. Thumbs up. Brilliant. We got that. Yeah, it's got a personalized. It put the initials on the pasty. Love it. Little mini pasties there. Some nice photos of the pasties already coming out. That's great news. I love it when we can have it live cook-alongs like this, and we can start to see all of the wonderful bakes that you've been making. That's really good news. And hopefully, like I say, we'll be back in schools sometime soon, so we can be cooking along live in classes as well. But even if we're not, and we go back to blended learning like we were before, and some of you have to stay at home and some of you can come in, that can still work, because we'll do it just the same way as this. I'll be doing it from the classroom rather than my kitchen here at home. Right, let's go and find out whether these are ready. They should be done now, and I can show you what they look like. Let's have a look. Yes. Okay, mine are done. So we have got some beautiful pasties there. We've got 5 minutes left of the lesson. Look at that, perfect timing. And we've got our beautiful pasties there to eat for break today. Wonderful there, vegetable pasties made with a homemade short crust pastry there, and using chopping skills on bridge and claw to dice up our vegetables to make our beautiful diced vegetable short crust stuffed pasties there for you. Hopefully yours are looking just as wonderful, if not better than mine. Like I say, thank you very much for joining us today. Thank you all for being so great and for cooking along. Those of you who've been cooking along, love to see all of your pictures shortly. And if you're cooking later on, please send me the photos as well. You've all been really, really good today. Make sure you're cleaning up. Make sure you're staying safe. Take care of yourselves. Have a good rest of your day. Okay, take care, stay safe, look after yourselves. See you later. Goodbye.